Thank you, Dr. Buznowska. Okay, well, I love to lead a discussion about bias with my own personal bias, which is neuroscience. So I only see everything through a lens of neuroscience, so I'm going to share that lens with you today. Here in healthcare, over these days of the Congress, we've heard the challenges of the healthcare teams, retention, recruitment, engagement, so many team challenges. So let's dive into the neuroscience demands that teams need to feel fully engaged, and how does affinity bias affect that? If we knew how to manipulate or know more about our bias, if we knew more how to navigate with our own biases or the neuroscience behind the bias, we can lead to further team engagement. So let's do this. The amazing Ruth Bader Ginsburg has left us this quote. It shows the power behind affinity bias and bias in general, how it can undermine and be so challenging to team leads like yourselves. She said, "I think unconscious bias is one of the hardest things to get at." Now, she was an amazing mind of the century, and so if she had a challenge with this, we all will have challenges with this. But today we're going to go through some strategies to help us navigate the power of bias and where it comes from and how to navigate it in our teams day to day. When I read through the neuroscience of bias, I have a favorite researcher. Her name is Lisa Feldman Barrett. And she talks about how when we are in new situations like walking the halls of Congress, we are looking at data points all day long through those crowded halls, and we are trying to make sense of it. We are trying to predict what's in front of us according to what we know. So that is where the term bias comes from. Sometimes it is called a disordered thinking. Not necessarily a disorder in my mind as one who loves neuroscience. It is the way the brain filters many data points throughout the day. It is unconscious in that we're not aware that we're filtering so many data points every second in our busy healthcare days. But when we look at what the team and how bias refers and affects our teams, once we understand the neuroscience behind it, then we learn again how to navigate and find new strategies. So bias, so it is like a deck of cards. Our past experience is like a deck of cards. And every time we have new data coming into us, we flip through our cards and we try to see, like, what is this? Do we know this? This is new for us. And why does this happen? Well, our brain's main goal is self-preservation of the body and the mind. We hear a lot about psychological safety at work. That is very important, as is our physical safety at work, of course. But we have to understand where the brain's coming from. So I'm here to talk brain for a second here and say our brain is most important and most focused on our self-preservation. So what does bias have to do with that? Well, we are taking in this information all day long, and we are looking for what is safe. So there's a term, affinity bias, and we will have affinity bias because of this way of thinking, this filtering information, going through our deck of cards, what looks like us, what looks safe, what has similar educational experience, what has similar professional experience. I got on the plane on my way here and a gentleman sat next to me, and I thought, well, I'm definitely not going to be saying much to that gentleman who sat next to me. He didn't look familiar to me. I didn't know anything about him. And then we ended up having the same amount of kids. We were going to the same place on vacation. He ended up growing up in an area close to where I live, and we had a great conversation. But my first inclination was, I don't know him, he's not like me. And what happens when I just stop there and I don't ask any further questions, or I understand or stop at my affinity bias? Affinity bias is when I feel safer with things that are like me. So why does it happen? It goes back to that self-preservation. The brain is always trying to be in a place where it is safe and preserving the whole body and the mind. And so what can that lead to? Well, our teams might look the same. We might just discard people who don't look like us, like that gentleman who sat next to me on the plane. I never would have thought, by the end of our conversation, he gave me a name of somebody we're going on vacation with. He gave me a name of a person that brought him around, that area. And so we're like new friends, so, but if I didn't speak with him or I didn't trust that he was someone that was safe, then I just have limited curiosity and I never would have gotten those resources that he shared with me. So affinity bias is part of our team, but once we learn how to navigate it, we can navigate with it. So our brain is looking for affinity because we define that as safety. So psychological safety, physical safety. If every day we're thinking of a checklist in our team meetings of how to navigate this affinity bias and other biases that may be present in our team, if we have this checklist, number one, trust. How do we build trust on the team? How do we help our teammates belong? How do we reinforce the impact of our team activities? And then how do we provide the resources that our team members need so that they can thrive on the team and we can all reach our goals in healthcare, which is of course patient safety and patient care. When we look at this beautiful image of this musical ensemble, these women, they all happen to be women. They are there for one reason. They know the team mission. We call this synchrony. We know this group of women are there to produce beautiful music. They all look well prepared. They all have the correct things on. They're all sitting at attention. So when we are in our team meetings, we can honor synchrony. As long as we all know why we're there, we can focus on what brings our teams together. Neurobiologically, when we're in a room with a group of people and we're working on the same mission, we actually can share brainwave synchrony. We can share pulse synchrony. We can share blood pressure synchrony. So we want to say sometimes, one man, one woman's an island. It's not true. We synchronize with the people that we hang out with. So our teams, we want to value the synchrony that we have with them. So we want to honor that trust. People need to know, why am I here on this team? What am I bringing? What are the values of the team? How do we honor the tensions that might be present in the team? Dr. Love's going to walk us through that, and Dr. Buzanowska is going to help us navigate these tensions that may come up in teams. How do we focus on the mission of the team? When people are clear, they know exactly what problem they're there to solve, what their role is on the team, when things are due on the team, what happens if things are not done within the team, who's in charge of the team, what everyone's skill level is, who can help them learn within the team. When that is very clear, we can calm down, we can feel safe. We can, again, put the brain in a safe position, psychologically and physically, because it knows it's synchronizing with the people in the room. That's the affinity, the team affinity we want to build by honoring the trust that can happen between team members. Team belonging. How do we honor the fact that we all want to belong? We want to know why we're in that room when we're building the team. We want to build safety. Most of the time in healthcare, we're hearing so much about psychological safety. But now, after hearing this lecture, you know that it's also physical safety. It's the brain's primary role is self-preservation. That's why everyone might be hesitant at first. What is this team about? What is our goal? We want to make sure we belong there, that we can put ourselves in that environment, and it's a safe environment for growth, to achieve the team goals. So we have an MRI here of a beautiful image of the brain. If you know anything about me, you know I love looking at these images. I'm honored as a neuroimmunologist. I get to look at the brain all day long. It's the best part of my day, and connecting with my patients, of course. But the brain has many structures that help us interpret our environment for safety, and we're doing that all day long. We hear a lot about amygdalas. We actually have 2 amygdalas, but there's so many other parts of the brain that are helping us determine if we are safe where we are in our workday. So what can we do, and you do as team leads, to build that strong sense of belonging within the team? One thing is we can make sure that we're honoring a positive state of mind for our team, that we are designing an environment of positivity for the team. Now that doesn't mean giddy, happy, everything's great. It means that as a team, we have a goal, and there's a great chance we can hit that goal. And if we don't hit that goal, we can learn from our challenges. So we have a picture of candy here because there was a study where some team members got candy, some team members did not get candy, and just honoring the fact that a little present for the team brought on a more positive state of mind, and the team actually hit their goals more quickly. Now we do have a little candy for you today because we believe in you guys, and bring it back to your teams. This, just a little acknowledgement of all the hard work that we do. And we know you acknowledge your team's hard work throughout the day. But small actions of just honoring their hard work really can help us all feel valued. That also helps us build that strong sense of belonging. Now, the other thing we'll notice on this picture is that the candy is round shape. The brain has a bias toward round. So when we see round things, we think it's safe. So you might notice as you're walking around Chicago, some architectural features or some in your hotel lobby, some round pillows or round features, because that makes us feel like we belong and we're safer in that environment. And now that you know that, you look around, sometimes you look at something, you're like, that's kind of fun, look at that. It's because a lot of times it's rounded. And that is a bias that we have. It doesn't necessarily mean it's always safe. There can be dangerous things that are round. But it's just it's just that funny bias that the brain can have. It's just the way we sift through our data points throughout the day. So isn't it great when you get to work and you're working on something with your team and you feel like you can have impact for the current generation or the next generation? One wonderful thing about this Congress is we're meeting so many students who are right in the thick of things and learning how to be healthcare administrators, physicians, learning how to be new leaders, so many people that are building those skills for the next generations. Brains really love to know that we have an impact on our current generations and our future generations. Again, that feeds the brain's need to feel safe, self-preservation. If we make sure that our environment is safe and the next generation is safe, that feeds our neurobiologic need of safety. So we call that generativity, that we're willing to put our time and energy today to help the next generation. And our teams, we want to focus on that because if we feel that we have an impact, we're definitely more willing to dive into those projects. So as team leads, we want to remind our team of the ability that we have to impact the next generations and the current generations. There's a particular part of the brain, we're looking at another beautiful picture of the brain there. There's a particular part of the brain that is nonverbal, just to have that deep feeling that we belong and that we are safe. And that a lot of times we'll say, I don't know, it just feels right. Like this just feels right, this job is just great. Why? I don't know, it just has that sense like I'm supposed to be here. Well, there's parts of the brain that, if we feel that fulfillment, sometimes Simon Sinek will say it's your why, it's your purpose. A lot of times if we're not feeding the next generation, we don't feel like that we're doing everything we can. We don't maybe feel fulfilled at work. So in order to fully meet our generativity needs, we want to make sure we're working on training the next generation or our current team members. Rewards are great. That piece of candy is really helpful, but really thinking of the long term, how you can have an impact, well, it will last longer. It will feel better. It'll feel a deeper sense of satisfaction and fulfillment for our teams. The other thing I want to honor is that the brain itself is an organ and it needs resources. And the way that we perceive our current environment depends on the body setting that we have brought today. So how you slept last night, what you ate, what time of day it is, kind of hard at 3 o'clock, but that will all influence how we perceive things. So as a team lead, we want to honor that, watch our timing of our meetings. Do we have any snacks? Do we have healthy snacks? Are we just bringing donuts, which are just a quick sense of sugar, and it's not really going to bring any kind of long, healthy nutrition for our brains? So as team leads, it's very important that we're honoring the body setting that our team members are bringing and that we ourselves are bringing as team leads. So we want to make sure we're honoring that indeed the brain needs resources. So we want to be very intentional about how we design our team's success. We want to make sure that we are thinking of how we're building trust, safety, belonging, and we're thinking of those resources. Because our teams need us to be intentional about the design and the environment we're putting our teams into and we're building for our teams. We want to make sure we're honoring the synchrony that we all bring, the safety, the generativity for future generations, and providing the resources so that we can feel balanced. Back to the notorious RBG, another quote from her. Justices continue to think and can change. I am ever hopeful that if the court has a blind spot today, its eyes will be open tomorrow. I am hopeful that now that you have just maybe an increased sense of the neurobiologic need of your teams and you as a leader, that your eyes will be open, and I'm glad to introduce Dr. Tiffany Love because she will open our eyes to how to build culture for your team.